Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to ILHAM and this afternoon's program, presented in conjunction with our new exhibition, Colorless, Odorless. Today's ILHAM conversation features visiting artist Eunhee Lee. Eunhee is based in South Korea, and her videos and films explore the relation between individual, image, and technology. Her video, Colorless, Odorless, was produced as a result of her winning the Nefkens Foundation Loop Barcelona Video Art Production Grant in 2023 in collaboration with various institutions, including ILHAM Gallery. The award aims to increase contemporary artistic production in the video art field by supporting artists of Asian origin or nationality. She will be speaking today to Yap Saobin, who is an artist, curator, and educator based in Kuala Lumpur. We are also delighted that our partner and friend Han Nefkens, the patron of the Han Nefkens Foundation, is here with us today. To kick off today's program, we would like to invite him to give a short introduction to the foundation and the video art production grant.
See, I like that very much, to be introduced not only as a partner, but as a friend. And that's a really important point for us. I'll tell you a little bit about how we work. The idea of my foundation is to support video artists all around the world. And we do that by giving them grants and commissions, so in other words, money to produce a new work. But at the same time, we do this together with museums and art institutions all over the world, so that the artist not only has finances to produce a new work, but has platforms to show that work. And that's, of course, really very important. I'll tell you a little bit how it works. So we have different grants and commissions according to different geographic areas. This one is for all of Asia, but we also have one for Southeast Asia, we have one for South Asia, we have one for Central Asia. As you can see, I'm kind of focused on Asia. That's, I can give very theoretical reasons why that is, because it's booming here, it's so dynamic. Video art is being used by so many artists. But the thing that's really behind it is that I really love Asia. I feel very much at home here. I feel that the people are open, they are dynamic, they're warm. So I really like to be here. So that's one of the reasons why we have so many grants in Asia. We have other ones that cover the rest of the world as well. So we have different scouts, and those are curators or artists or journalists, people who know about those different regions, who send us 10 candidates for the different grants and commissions. So, 10 scouts send 2 candidates, so that's 20. We have a long list. So here I am behind my computer in Barcelona, and I see all these artists coming by, you know, from Bangladesh, from India, from Korea, from Japan, lots of artists that I've never seen, and I have access to the dossiers with videos. So I spend days watching videos of artists that I haven't known before. And it's a little bit like traveling to all these countries, because artists explore the history of their country, they explore the social situation, they explore their own culture, and they do it in their own way. And that means that the pace is very different from what I might be used to. The focus is very different. So it is really this world tour that I do when I sit behind my computer. And then the museums, the art institutions, select about 8 candidates from the long list, so we have a short list. And then there is a jury meeting, or what they say, a selection commission meeting, because we don't want to talk about jury, and we don't want to talk about winners, because when you have winners, you also have losers. And we don't want that. You know, this grant and the commission is really meant to support an artist at a moment in their career that they need this extra push, not only the money, but also the exposure to different countries. So, and the choice of an artist, it's always by the art institutions and the museums themselves. I'm not involved, I'm sort of moderating the talk. The choice is based on many subjective criteria. It's not really like this is a good artist and this is not a good artist. It's about, for example, if a museum wants to show that kind of art, if they might have shown it before, and they might want to show it again, or that might be a reason why they don't show it. Another aspect that the museums look into is if an artist has shown abroad. So that could be a reason to say they don't really need this grant very much. But there could also be a reason to say, no, it's not true. If an artist is doing well, why should they be punished and not get the grant? So these are really interesting conversations that we have. And I think it's also very interesting for the different art institutions to hear what their colleagues around the world are saying and what they are looking for. So the choice is made not through voting. I don't believe in that. I feel that if an art institution is going to show a work, they have to be absolutely convinced. So we talk. And if after a couple of hours it's not clear which candidate will receive the grant, we say, okay, we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. We might invite some of the artists to have a Zoom conference and tell a little bit what they think they might do when they get the grant, and questions can be asked. And if that happens, it becomes quite clear which candidate will get the grant. And then the tour starts. Eunhee Lee has traveled all around the world already with her video. This is, I think, one of the last places on your world tour, right? So this is one element of what we do. I focus so much on the conversations that the art institutions have among themselves, because I feel that this is a really important part of the whole process. The key word here is trust. The art institutions trust each other. The art institutions trust the artist, that the artist that's selected will be an artist that can give all their effort to make a new work, a work that they will show. And during those conversations, it is very important that the art institutions, and when I say art institutions, I really mean the directors of the art institutions and the curators, listen to each other, that they're open, that they, you know, this is a real dialogue. And we're so used to dialogues actually being a symphony of monologues. You know, you speak, and then the other person has a chance to speak, but you're not even listening, and you're already preparing what you're going to say. And I'm very proud to say that in the jury meetings that we've had so far over the last 10 years that we've been doing this, the different museums, the curators, the directors really listen to each other. And that is why the decision is made in harmony. And I may be a little bit romantic and idealistic, but I sort of feel that we are creating an ecosystem of like-minded people, the artists and the people from the different art institutions, who treat each other with respect, who trust each other, who are kind, and who are generous, because also if you make a decision, sometimes you have to give in a little bit. It's not always what you wanted in the beginning, you know, you have to give a little bit. And that leads to this harmony as well, and then of course the wonderful experience of seeing a work when it's ready and when it's being shown. So I have this thought, perhaps it's a dream, I don't know, but that we are building this ecosystem of people who do trust each other, and I feel that this is a really important counterpart to what's going on in the world at this moment. It's such a polarized world, a world where people distrust each other, where people have no communication. And I feel that through art, we manage to create that trust and to work with that trust. And that's really the most important thing I want to say, you know. You are here now with a group of people who trust each other and who respect each other. And that's something that's not so common nowadays. And so it's something we all should enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Han. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Eunhee Lee and Yap Sao Bin to come up and begin the conversation.
Hello. All right. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming, and thank you, Rahel, for trusting me. And certainly, thank you to Eunhee for trusting me by sending me her portfolio. So I have spent last 3 days watching all her work. I'm quite sure you haven't seen any of her work, right? Too bad. You have to stay back after 1 hour after our talk, and then we will do the screening actually of the work. And actually, the other work actually, Machine Don't Die from 2022 is actually in front there. Okay, so it'll be interesting for you to actually, if you watch both of them, and then give you some idea. But we promise this is going to be casual conversation. But I mean, look at this; they are very serious. But Eunhee or Eunhee, welcome to KL.
Thank you.
All right, you're a good friend. Yeah. Perhaps tell us, because I think to a lot of people, although we have this dossier here available, and then you can read through that. Maybe just tell us a little bit, like where you're from, or what have you been doing? I've been looking at a lot of this, your video and images. It's interesting to perhaps that you can tell us, like, how do you move from those work in the past into this after Hans Nefkens Award? You know, something very simple.
Okay. Let's do it in a very casual way. So my name is Eunhee. I am from South Korea. I now based in Seoul, and I've been actually producing most of the video works since now it's my 10th year living in Korea. Before I was in other countries, just kind of studying in Germany, but now I feel like I could say I'm a Korean-based artist. And so it's actually my 10th. And so the question was how I started to making this work, and what's the difference between in the past. It's really hard to actually draw the fine line between the past work and then the newest work, because I've been just producing a lot of most of moving image works before as well. But the thing is, the difference is that this is the longest film that I made, the Colorless, Odorless, the main work. The one video that I made before Colorless, Odorless is the Machines Don't Die that you will see in the other room, which is about 20 minutes or so. And I think that was because of this regulation, or the format that was given by the Han Nefkens Foundation, is that it's a single channel video. It's going to be shown internationally. And also there is no restriction of whatsoever about the duration, about the subject. So it was like a completely new freedom. And because it's also the production grant that is outside of Korea, because a lot of artists living in Korea are very dependent on the national grant or the art council, because we don't have that much private investment on them. So a lot of museums are commissioning artists to make a new work, either or then the artist would actually have to get a national grant. And there isn't really a very strict standard for it, but then you would actually see like there is a certain thing that would actually get the grant. And I got the grant before, the national grant, but then this time was the Han Nefkens Foundation was all different. So this is where I kind of began, okay, I have no restriction. It's not going to be shown in Korea. But it ended up showing in Korea very much. But then, so I was just saying, I would just do whatever I want. I always done whatever I want, but then something that is more outside of my boundary. And the first topic that I thought that came to my mind when I had to make a new work was about occupational diseases, occupational accidents that I've been always thinking while I was making previous works.
Occupational
Diseases.
Okay.
People who get sick at work.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the thing that I was really meant to talk about in this film.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So in a way that you are saying that the opportunity of receiving this grant open up some certain ways that you can do similar topic, but in a different way. But although in the past you do have a lot, you have received the national grant before.
Yeah.
So what was the boundary that you felt sort of opens it up for you?
The first thing is actually the time of the production. The duration of the production was given a year. So in Korea, when I'm being given with the commission work, mostly is the longest one is like 7 months. I think there is like this 1 year circulation in the Korean art scenes that everything that you get a grant and then you have to end it by the next year. But then between that, there's like a lot of other things that you have to do with the bureaucratic things and stuff. So actually the time, the duration of creation is, normally 6 months. And I just got this 1 whole year of producing just one single work, which is that I'm able to put very dense energy into this work. So that was then, I think, maybe the difference.
Interesting. So perhaps we can call that a fiscal sickness that a lot of people suffer from. Right. But maybe then we can tell us, in a sense, because I noticed that a lot of your practice is actually very research driven, right? Well, I happen to see the portfolio, like you probably produce like 1 or 2 work per year, right? And these are all video work. So which means that the amount of research is actually very important. Okay, so maybe talk us through like how this research and your research on occupational diseases related to industrialization, the electronic industry that we all refer to. Maybe just tell us more about that so we can move into this work. Yeah.
So the work of Machine Don't Die actually talks about the industrial area that is called urban mining. It's actually called urban mining because they get a mineral mining not from the ground but from the city. Urban mining means they're recycling only the valuable minerals from the machine, from the waste of the machines. They extract the gold or palladium or rare earth from the cell phone or from the technological device that they no longer able to function. So that was that came very interesting to me because this work, the Machine Don't Die, was commissioned by the Seoul Museum of Art, and I was like imagining that what if I put this massive image of waste inside the museum? Like that was the one thing that I wanted to do, and as well as I just want to see where all these technological devices came from, or where does it go after it is being discarded. And while I was filming inside the factories, there was one guide by the CEO of the factories that I should not film the workers because there were a lot of migrant workers as well, and there were a lot of like very hard works that they had to do. They had to deal with the chemicals. They had to deal with the trash, obviously, and it kind of became a burden to me where I can only able to film something that is proven by the CEO of the company, not really the actual scenery of the factories. And then, but even before, I was keep thinking about the dangers of the industry, and then some of the sacrifice that we always have to do for the technological advances, because I think in East Asia and also in Southeast Asia, we have this belief that technology is the thing where it would upgrade our economical situation in our country. And historically, it was always like that. In Korea, the economic development went so high because of the technological industry. So there are a lot of this sacrifice behind it. And I keep having this doubt about, is technology really advanced? Because there are a lot of people getting sick, or there's a lot of social issues that is left behind of these things. So I just it was like always stuck in my mind. And then when I got this grant, I thought, okay, maybe then I will really have to focus on the people who works in this technological industry. So this is how it went.
But okay, yeah, I think so. That's the critique in a sense is dealing with what we call technocratic developmentalism, okay, of East and Southeast Asian nation, right? So it's about all about development using technology to improve the situation, economy, and things like that.
It's like a Deus ex machina coming down from the sky where it's gonna solve everything. The technology.
So what is the hidden cost? So you're looking in a sense the hidden cost that they impact to not only the society, the people, but the people who work in there. And how does it like? But this is actually 2 years apart, right? Do you see the differences between? Well, you don't have to tell them everything about the differences, but what maybe give us something to like pay attention. What is the difference between these two work?
So between these 2 years apart from Machine Stone Die and Colorless, Odorless, I made another work. It's called Mechanics of Stress, which is actually like 7 channel of video installation as a solo exhibition. But the whole thing is actually looking at different steps of machine's life cycle. So, as the person, as we have the life expectancy and the life cycle as a human, we are like be given by the birth, we are living the life during the time, and then we die. And just like that, the machine also have this life cycle, begins from the mining, designing, production, and consumption is only the step that we are able to see. And then after consumption is disposal or recycle. And then Machine Stone Die was actually focusing on this recycle part, disposal part. And the mechanic of stress that I've made between these two work is actually looking at the mining, that I documented some of the infrastructure landscape of mining and also designing how the machines would work. Like I went to some of the invention lab and engineering lab. And then for me, so the production part was left, because consumption part is already, we know about it. Like we are so well known about how to consume these machines. But then for me, the production part was missing. And there it kind of clicked in my bigger map that, okay, so let's find about something that is keep failing in the stage of production part. Is then the Colorless, Odorless is focusing on the production of semiconductor. So semiconductor is actually the chip that is like rooted in the every machines. Yeah. And in this semiconductor, as well as electronical industry in general, I was focusing on how they are made. The site of the production is actually the factory. And then I would actually find what is happening inside the factory. And then it kind of gone to the more of the who gets sick at this in this factory. What are the things that is happening inside the factory? And I happen to see people getting sick at the clean room.
What is a clean room?
Clean room is like Don't
tell them too much. Just tell them enough to say.
Clean room is where they produce semiconductor wafer. The wafer. Okay. And you will see very often in a YouTube or in a media where people wear this white gown to produce this semiconductor chip. And this is how the worker looks like inside the clean room.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it has to be very clean, in a sense.
Yeah, but can I spoil it?
Just tell them a little bit. But why is colorless and odorless in that sense?
Because colorless, odorless is actually like the direct translation of this Chinese letter called 무색무취.
Okay.
무색무취 means like no color, no taste, no sense.
Yeah.
And we also use it in Korean. Mm-hmm. And this is like a very daily phrase that we use every time when we want to say something about this is plain. There's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And the clean room actually, if we imagine about the clean room, there's like no dust, there's no pollution. Everything has to be so clean. So there is no scent, no taste, nothing that you would actually feel inside the clean room because everything should be clean. That's what the corporation is talking about. The clean room is like 100% fully controlled so that there is no speck of a dust to create a semiconductor wafer.
So if it's so clean, how can people get sick?
Yeah, so that's what this work is trying to talk about.
Right. So we shouldn't. You don't want to tell them?
Can I tell it?
Do you want to know from the artist or from the work? So that is a question. Do you want it to be revealed to you, or do you want it to you want to discover it yourself? That is like how an artwork to me. Tell them a little bit.
Yes.
Or describe it, but don't tell them what exactly. Describe what they might see.
So when we imagine about this protective gear, is that also the worker thing, it is actually protecting them in the factory, but then somehow the protector gear is protecting the wafer, not the the engineer or the operators. So, and when we are seeing this image of clean room, we only see the images. We never been inside. The camera cannot go inside. But then a lot of workers saying it smells a lot because to create one single technological device, we would need like a countless amounts of different chemicals that could be also very toxic to the human bodies. And these things are not actually protective for the workers. So even this mask is actually not a working mask. It's actually like K95, like dental mask. So the workers, when they're, for example, cleaning wafers, they have to like dip this into the chemicals to clean it. Those things they would actually inhale. And a lot of cases have been revealed by the scandals back in 10 years ago in South Korea that many of people actually died of leukemia. It has been really, really like the big scandal also for the Samsung where they create semiconductor. And yeah, this work is a continuation of tracking what's happening inside this big technological corporation.
It's interesting in the sense that the idea of the clean room and the idea of a protection gear is actually not protecting the one who's wearing it. So there's a kind of inversion logic actually within how a lot of industry actually work in a sense. So I wonder whether this inversion is something that you've been looking at through your images. You talk about this image, but how is made, the technology behind it, the people who suffer while making that, the land which is being mined in order for the mineral and the metal to be extracted from it. In a sense, the ecology system suffer because of that. Why are you so obsessed with this, revealing this inversion? What do you want to heal? I thought I would think of heal because I was watching some of your work, right? What do you want to heal, and who do you want to heal it together with? I think there's two questions, perhaps then, in the past, and then how you collaborate nowadays.
Actually never felt about healing, but I think the very root motivation of doing, especially the video art, moving image, is that it's actually making something that is invisible to visible is actually the own the very special function of the camera, of the images. And this actually very clicks together with my practice because making art is about creating something from a very abstract thinking into a very tangible thing. And I think this resonates very well with the revealing something that is hidden, because we are so it's very easy to see something. Everything is visual. Everything is very visible. But then once we try to find something that is invisible, I get to see why they're invisible. And this is like, it teach me how to understand how the world functions. Because when you look at the world as it is, and when you look at the world that is not being seen, then you get to see, things are not just being started as invisible. They become invisible by certain structure of the system or the social problems. Yeah. So this is like how I understand the world, because for me, as also Hans said, like the word is so confusing. Yeah. Like I don't know how this word works. Yeah. And I'm very eager to know about it. Sometimes I get angry. Sometimes I feel like, I want to know about the word, but then it is so difficult because, human dynamics is so diverse. Yeah. But then sometimes like technology is the easiest thing. Because technology is just the production of the human society. And this is like the clearest reflection that you will see than other examples in the world. Everything is so complicated, but at least technology is just, it's produced by the intention of the humans. So if I look at the technology and if I maybe look closely how it's made or what is hidden, then maybe I get to understand slightly about how the world works. Yeah, those are things.
But it's also, in a sense, interesting, although you talk about technology and how the machine, the materials, the kind of tests involved, and the chemical that is used to do all those, right? But in a lot of your images, it's actually the human who is speaking together with with all the other elements. So what is that relationship that you... Very often when I use my phone, we don't think about the people who make this. We don't think of people who sell it. We don't think about a lot of those stuff. So the human relationship involved in there, how do you want to bring that out? Why is that important to you?
Because actually those people are the most expert about this technological devices. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times a machine seems as like a black box. We are only using the consumption part, as we say it, that is already designed for the consumers. But then I think people who create it actually knows different side of the technology, the actual part. Yeah. And the thing is, not just because I want to stay humble, but then I don't think I know so much about the technology itself. So I'm actually borrowing someone else's testimony, someone else's knowledge by the interview, asking them, do you know how these things are made? And they would actually tell me the stories, and I will just put this into my video so that the real experts is sharing the stories to the audience by the tool that I have or by the skill that I have, which is documenting. So, yeah.
But when I'm thinking about the people involved, not just the engineers, I'm quite sure you're not talking about the engineers also, but I think perhaps we can sort of lead this to the worker who were producing it, and then the union, these are the people who work together and things like that. Maybe then you can lead us to think about, or in what way you think your work is trying to lead us to think about that kind of a more social-political relationship between production and labor, and also the sickness of different people working in order to create this thing work for all of us in that sense, right? I think that is the more rather serious part of your practice in a sense. You want to talk about that?
I think I have this genuine admiration to the workers and to the activists. I always admire the activists, but then for the workers, also because I always feel like I don't really work. I call myself a freelancer, but somehow it so seems far away from the work. So actually the worker seems like the genuine person who actually has to do something with the society. Yeah. And I feel like I'm just the observer who doesn't really do this work. I feel like I'm always either the consumer or just the translator. But then also, I happen to also from the personal backgrounds, I used to work in a factory as well, but not really like the manual work, but then I get to see the close landscape of how really technological industry works that is not only been seen by the media, the clean room with everything is automated without human working in the factory. But then I get to really see people work there, and then people with the dedication to their work. You know, it's so hard to be in this factory 12 hours every day. But then when I interview them, there's like this great pride. And that was like one very difficult thing to process when I'm making this, because also the interviewees, there's a lot of interview in this film of the workers who got sick. But then there's this very controversial feelings between them, because not only that they're very sad that they're sick, but then because they were working so hard, they were so proud. Yeah. They were so proud working at a Samsung, you know, it's like a big company, very, you know, you almost feel like you succeed in your work. But then somehow you realize that the company wasn't really protecting you. There's like this emotions of betrayal and the pride at the same time. Yeah. And this pride doesn't go away. Even if I doing an interview now, whenever I ask them like, so can you tell me about what you did in this clean room? It's like their eyes suddenly start to sparkle, because that's what they've been doing for like 10 years or 15 years. And I see this very, I don't know, interesting for me to see this different emotions towards it. And I think it tells a lot of story to listen about what the workers do.
I think in the sense it also is a sort of tells something very specific, because the worker, when you say here, you refer to the workers in the factory worker in Korea, and in a sense that is perhaps a certain kind of cultural, I wouldn't say phenomenal in a sense, or it's a cultural trait that one takes a lot of pride of staying in the same corporate organization for a long time, and that is a sign of a loyalty. Yeah, and when something bad happened to them, and then they do not get the right, not only just compensation, but acknowledgement and things like that, the sense of betrayal by the system, by that. Yeah, and I think for a context here, I think the worker here, a factory worker, doesn't just mean those working in the electronic and electrical industry, because some of the images in this work also shows people who work in the mine, I think, and then engineers and lab technicians, as well as those who are working in scrap metal industry and things like that. So it's like the whole spectrum of work that somehow accumulate in the making in the making of just one electronic items, right? So I think that is very interesting, because when I was watching all this, I say, oh, it's like revisiting. Not that I have lived for 200 years, but it's like revisiting the critique of industrial revolution. When people talking about industrial revolution, the suffering of the child labor and things like that. And while watching all this, I think, wow, it's like some of this thing that we read, you know, if you read Charles Dickens, for example, right, the suffering of the child labor in urban cities, you know, in London or so on, that this kind of stories come back in a sense. But I'm quite sure the situation and the way in which it is being resolved or deal with is quite different in a way, because you also mentioned that you speak to it and you work very closely with some activists, right? Union worker and activists, and you interview them as well. How much of a role do they play in that kind of collaboration? How do you work with them?
I have to apologize to Nefkens Foundation, because a lot of audience in Korea thought it was supported by the activists. It was, They even thought because a lot of people who actually appeared in this film organized their own community screening. After the film is finished, after it's been shown in some of the venue, they rented a cinema by themselves and bringing all their working union people and then like just show it in the film cinema, and then they have their own guest talk.
All right.
Yeah. And they thought like, wow, it's actually made by them or supported by them.
I'm quite sure Hans doesn't mind that at all, right, Hans? I think it's actually the whole point of trusting and letting it go.
Yeah. But it's actually it's a nice thing. I just let them, and I mean, but there was a lot of collaboration between, and also because I think a lot of activists that I met. I met Sharps, the certain NGO groups who supports for victimized worker of the semiconductor industry, especially. But before I met them, I met a lot of other institutions, organization, activists as well. But then I think these activists association were very waiting for the moment for someone else outside of the activist field come to them and then making something that is not only about advocacy.
Oh, okay.
So I asked them, like, can I do some interviews? Can I join? Can we have share some conversation? And they're just like, oh yeah, do you want to come to this international forum that we are doing like next month? Mm-hmm. You can film us. You can film. I'm like, okay, then I will film. And then like I go there, then I get to meet like Taiwanese activists and activists or association from Philippines, all these international people around them. And then that's where I have enlarged this. The
people that you meet.
The people that I meet. Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah, but then it's not like I'm only showing what they're telling me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then while I'm editing, there's not so much conversation between. But then after I finish it, I show them. Mm-hmm. Like before I really release it, and they're just like, okay, good, it's your work. But then they didn't really expect that this would have much more audience than they imagined. So now they're happy, and I see them being empowered because this work is not only showing like in a campaign or like in a YouTube, but it's like show it in the museums where you would actually encounter random people, and also in the film festival with the film audiences. So I think, but I still meet them, and they keep asking me like, are you interested in this topic? Because recently the activists I just met a week before I come here, they said they're trying to go to Hungary for the fire accident disaster happened in the battery industry, because this happened very similar in Korea recently. So they're just kind of like seducing me. Maybe Eunhee can come together and make some film about it.
Okay.
And I'm like, why not? Maybe I will think. Yeah.
So they go to Hungary. This sounds like the worker of the world united together, kind of campaign. In a sense.
It is because the whole thing about this advocacy is about human rights for the workers in the electronic industry. Most of the activist group that I meet.
But I'm actually really curious in a sense that why does your work speaks to them, and they felt that's very different from the normal type of advocacy documentary that they have been showing or they see. You know, what can an artist offer that wasn't available before?
Because I also have a mixture of feelings toward technology as well. I think like maybe something different between the activism documentary and what I do is because I'm also a consumer. I love using devices. I love social networks. I love internet. I love all these devices. I'm using Apple Pro Max computer for editing my video. I'm always using like Arri camera, Sony camera, using all this Panasonic beam projector that is like always like in advance. And a lot of this traditional activism documentary has this evil and good. The victims and the perpetrator. There is obviously a victim and a perpetrator at the same in the work, but then I feel like this cannot be just been shown like a black and white, just like I'm showing the workers having mixture feelings of pride and betrayal at the same time. And also in this film, at the end of the very last scene, there is this strong voice of this operator woman who used to work for like 15 years in Samsung like clean room. She said, I was so proud. I was able to earn so much money than anywhere else, because I was working in a Samsung semiconductor, feeding my child, like going to a travel around the world. And then somehow I got sick. And when I have to report this to the government, I feel so, she said, I'm very embarrassed, to blame Samsung, because I've been there for 15 minutes. So this is like this mixture feeling. And maybe I don't really have to put this scene in my film when I want to just say the company's bad. So because I also have this mixture feelings to it. So even the machines don't die. The reason why this work could be finished is because I showed this final film to the CEO of the urban mining factory, and he said it was okay. Because I'm not really showing this is bad or this is a problem, but then people who knows this is a problem would actually understand it. But I think as a documentary, the message is a bit maybe less strong. Maybe, I'm not sure.
But you have shown it to the activists and all the other members in a sense, and they are moved in a different way, I suppose. So in a sense, it's not as didactic as a normal documentary or a propaganda ever can, in a sense that there is a very clear dichotomy between the good and the bad. I think in a way, the way you bring in the narrator, the material in a sense, it has more complexity. Right, you try to acknowledge their complex feelings as well, right? And perhaps, while I'm thinking aloud myself, perhaps that also paint them as more human in a way, and they're dealing with that. Okay, but I'm curious. They are also inviting you to go to all this campaign and forums. Do you think you would go?
If my mom allows, because like recently they're meeting now Indonesian environmental activist group fighting advocacy for decal mining, and they say, do you want to come together? And I said maybe.
Okay.
But then not every subject I want to like capture something like bad scandal out of it, but then I think it needs a right timing, and also some of the circumstances that I'm able to bring the finance for this work, because the activist group didn't actually pay me to make this work. I actually brought all my camera staff, my producer, supported by the foundation, to them, and then just like made it with my own agency, not by the agency of the activist. So it really needs this right circumstances to make something that criticize about certain problem.
And it actually moves them that you take an initiative to come and say, all right, I'll bring all my team. And you have to check out her list of production. It's like Eunhee is the director. There's a lot of like proper production in a sense. So quite amazing compared to some of your earlier work in 10 years ago. So the production is quite extensive in a sense. But I still find this interesting because the activists, they are moved by that. They're touched. Someone is taking an interest, and I find this interesting as well that you mentioned that when they found out that the work is shown in outside of other venue, as in a museum in Film Fest, it actually means something to them. So, and I sort of think this is interesting. Oh, Hans Nefkens, you are doing something right in a way. Okay, that because I want to expand this into thinking how can contemporary artistic practice, right, not just dealt within subject matter, deal with aesthetics and other philosophical or theories, social issues, but it can have a certain aspect that leads to, that can bring back or even return certain to the activism to other plight and plea of other communities and things like that. I wonder, how do you get to that point? I'm just curious.
I really just like to bring like the real world into the art, and then bring art into the real world, because I just don't like this this elegancy that culture or like art has it. But then like what I just said about making machines don't die, I want to bring this whole image of waste inside the Seoul Museum of Art, and then actually show it, like, put it into like the eye of the audience. I think there are other artists who does this role, finding very philosophical and also the beauty and very contemporary. Sometimes I don't even know whether I'm a contemporary artist, because I have this very difficulty of finding myself as a artist sometimes, because I always get very confused with my identity. Like, I'm not really fully filmmaker. I'm not really fully fine artist, because I don't do sculpture. I don't do paintings, or I don't do very beautiful videos. It's just like kind of mixed up with the documentary, something semi stuff. But then I have this interest about bringing stuff in and bringing stuff out, where activists come to the museum, where the art audience go to the to the protest, like, or in the street, because sometimes it really works. People like who come to the film festival, they ended up like following the activists like emailing list, and they even donate. Sometimes they even go to join their protest or like the press conference. And I just feel like this is what it really works for me. It's like, oh, okay, my work actually works sometimes. Like bringing in and out, or more like a translator, or more like an interpreter between these two distinct like words. And because I cannot really define this way of practice in other area, like, because I'm not a researcher, I'm not an academic, I'm not a anthropological, the person who makes this diploma writings or stuff like that. But then sometimes I do more field studies than the actual academics. So this is like, where do I belong? Maybe art obsessed me, so maybe I could still call myself another artist. Yeah. But I don't know.
Perhaps I think it's just precisely because you don't feel like you're a filmmaker or a documentary or a journalist or a video artist or a fine artist, that the work that you do speaks and able to allow this kind of a connection of a different body of communities. Maybe that's quite beautiful in a way. Interesting. You're in the right place. Malaysia is exactly like that.
Yay.
We are not here and there.
Invite me more. Sometimes I've been heard like, maybe your work is maybe too journalism way. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I've been thinking about. But I mean, why not? Mm-hmm. Why not?
But I think maybe those comments needs to be seen in context, because if I do, again, I'm very privileged to be able to see some of your early works as well. And this would be my last question before we open to our audience as well. Start thinking about your questions, okay? If you do have something, right? What was my question? Yes, yeah. Your work in the past. There's a lot of quite a lot of experiments in a way dealing with, and I would call it very media art kind of genre in the sense. Because I want to bring this back to your training. This is me being fanboy. Yeah, you met Hito Steyer in Berlin, and I think one of her work that I watched many times is actually How Not to Be Seen, a fucking didactic video. Okay, I get to use the F word today, right? It's because it's a proper title of an artwork. Okay, so I'm not making fun of the situation, but Hito's practice, and I think amongst others, is like questioning the politics of images and surface and technology. I just wonder whether how that has been an important part. Definitely not just because of her, but I think the time you spent in Berlin and then in Korea, I think this comes back to the question of being an artist. Okay, the way you question the image, the media that you work with, that kind of criticality of reversing what is unseen. Why is that important? Why is that so meaningful to you? how far can you go in revealing everything?
It's not really about. It's also like a big influence of the our teacher, and also because the whole class actually came together because of what she's doing. You know, like the students go to her class because they already have this interest about political images and operational images in a contemporary technological world. And then in this class, while I was there, we have this very active conversation between students, and then you will see a lot of result of the discussion by the students. So it's like a little platform where you are able to really focus on this certain topic because you feel like you could actually talk with other students as well. So that was like a really nice influences, very nice a time of my study back in Germany, in Berlin. But also at the same time, I don't want to just be very non-materialistic. Like just, I don't want to just talk about ideas like a video essay where everything just talks about very smart thing just in a subtitle, like some random images with some very philosophical text in a subtitle talk about the whole things about the world. But then this is just isn't my way of practice. So I feel like I'm only able to talk about what I've been physically experienced. Yeah, something more grounded, what I've seen physically, not just by collection of the internet images. I used to do that, but then I always feel like this isn't enough. This isn't really resolving what I have to do, what I want to do. That's why I kind of like started to go to the field, meeting the actual people, because maybe it's more important to just showing something that is simple than saying something very philosophical, very smart in just the language wise. So it's a good experience through this whole. Yeah.
There is a kind of I would call it a kind of ethnographic turn, because you're doing more field and research and meeting more people in a sense.
But then I also love making images, like, when in front of my computer, like putting something digitally.
There are still some inserted in this, but
Yeah.
we're not going to tell them because you have to watch it.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could invite some questions from the floor. I've been trying to get Eunhee to talk as much, but what do you really? Yeah. This is part of the teasing part. Yes. Zihao?
Hello. Hi, thank you for sharing your work. So my question is, you work within a very ambivalent space, right? And so I'm curious about how do you then work with, within, or against multiple regulations? You have mentioned it a little bit in the beginning of the session, but if you could elaborate a little bit, what are the processes involved in working within and against regulations? Who do you need to convince? Who do you need to perhaps lie to? What legal frameworks or modes of surveillance that you have to circumvent? And by modes of surveillance, I'm thinking about CCTVs, security guards, or different monitoring systems. What are your points of persuasion? And how much time do you need to actually be involved in the industry or in the factory so that you could gain their trust and sort of to pull everyone to the middle? And when I say middle, what I meant is the moral ambiguity that is articulated in your work. Yeah, thank you.
I think the trust, it's like the vocabulary of the whole events today, the trust. Yeah, the trust actually come from amount of knowledge that you prepare before you meet this person, whether it is the victims or the CEO of the industry, is because in my experience, just saying, I'm an artist, I'm very interested in that, can I film about it, doesn't really work. People who come here to the museums, they really value the art, but some people from the industry, they don't value the art. Just saying the artist doesn't really makes them to believe like I'm gonna make something good about it. So it's more like I introduce myself as like a freelancer, documentary, video maker, producer, and then I say, you know, like what makes me want to shoot about this work. Critical way, also non-critical way, in a also very functional way. Like urban mining stuff about the machines don't die. I actually been to, I don't know, not more than, but you know, like sometimes I send more than like 20 emails to different companies, and then whenever they say maybe come by for just a little talk, then I prepare, give them all this material, who I am, so that they could trust me and where this thing's supported from, where this going to be shown, and also the pre-interviews and some of the, like as much of information that they would receive. And also I'm not going to deceive, like lie to them, like, but I'm going to actually like change the tone of it. Maybe like I have this some critical perspective towards this recycling marketing problems, where like urban mining seems very green, but actually it's not. It's actually creating much more chemicals just to filter this little tiny gold out of the machines. But then, you know, that's not the main point. I would just say, you know, this urban mining stuff is very interesting. I would document it and I will show it to you. And actually they seen all the works, like all the interviewees that I filmed. I check them, I double check them, and then if it's not allowed, then I wouldn't do it. But then these things got me really, really stressful before Colorless, Odorless, because I'm always able to show things that are allowed. That's why Colorless, Odorless is about, not really about the CEO perspective of the industry, but then like the actually the victim's perspective of the industry. But somehow there's a pros and cons, because then I cannot film the factory. I cannot put the camera inside the clean rooms. Then what's left there is just the testimony of the workers. So then there is not about information and all this like knowledge about the industry, but it's then about the honesty and how I feel towards it, or what kind of image that I have towards technology might resonate to the interviewees. So those things always change. Just, the strategy change. But then I'm going like, I'm not trying to keep my ego as an artist whenever I have to, you know, talk to people in a different area. Like I'm changing so that they would actually see me as like a non-stranger. So this is what I learned from my factory years. Like, you know, yeah, sometimes because it's very masculine factories. I used to work in a factory where they don't have a female washroom at all. And then, you know, like I've been also sometimes mistreated very much, but then I kind of know like how this hierarchy works, you know, between this much masculine factories. So I'm kind of using it. Sometimes I even use like, ha ha ha, thank you, you know, yeah, because sometimes they open their minds to it, but it's not like I'm lying or, you know, they find it as like acting or something, but then I'm just trying to have a mirror. So yeah, the way of researching. So before meeting the actual people, then I have to read a lot, and then I have to put it in my mind so that this is not someone else's knowledge, because I'm not going to, you know, everything. And then, yeah, I don't know if that answers.
Hit and run and guerrilla warfare. When you does basically that is always with the consent of the factory and things like that. But certainly there's a lot of survival instinct because of you're familiar with the environment, and also there's a certain ethnographer twist in the way you approach them in a sense.
And one thing really came to my mind. I give the footage to the factory workers. The CEO, because because I bring so many cameramen to the factories, and it has to be like, you know, like zero sum thing. Mm-hmm. So I say within this footage I will make my own work, And within this footage, I give it to you. You can use whatever you want. Sometimes that works because it's a business.
Yeah. So they get something back in the sense, all right, I got a freelancer documenting my work. Okay, I know some freelancer videographer friend here. So yeah, that's how you get to do things. Yeah, we have one more question from the back now.
Yes.
Hi, please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi. Hi. I'm Yasmina, and I'm here from KL. Thank you a lot for this conversation. I really learned a lot, and it seems that the work you do is a really nice blend of, well, filmmaking, documentary making, also investigative art. The activist art, and the question is, in which of the phases of your work, and as you said, this is high production, which requires a lot of stakeholder engagement, a lot of scheduling interviews, a lot of research. In which of the phases your art is born? Is it while you're doing your research and your investigation prior to conducting those interviews and collecting data? Is it during the process of meeting people, or maybe in post-production? Because you come with the idea, and then you do the work, which is like really hard work. I know about it. But when the notion of art and feeling I'm making the art actually appears?
It starts simultaneously with the pre-production, finding locations or trying to find people whom I can meet kind of goes together. So I have like this little, some of the topics in my mind. Then I try to find people or institution or lab or whatever, people who could say about it. So while waiting for their reply and waiting for their appointments to meet, I have to like study so much. So that's kind of like do it. And then after I meet them, I get to learn something new. There is some of the changes in my mind. And then it kind of driven to this kind of a format, because I don't know 100% about this, and everything changed from, what they say about it. So it's always changing, and the stuff is like I don't really have this synopsis, script, or storyboard before ending the work. So it changes every time. Also, as you said, post-production also changes, because when I edit, this is like very non-language feelings that drives like how to edit this film. Sometimes it depends on the music that I get. Sometimes it depends on certain scenes where I filmed, and this kind of click, and then everything kind of structured by that one or several important stuff that I have documented. So it's really hard to say like the one timing where the things begin. But also, like, realistically, it begins by the deadline. So.
I think you just make a very good sales so that they will stay back and watch and say, how is this different from the normal documentary? Very good question. Thank you very much. And the way you tell them is, okay, how exactly is the kind of work look like? Yeah. So I suppose, Hans, you have a question?
Thank you very much. I think I don't have a question, I have just some observations. The way you answered the last question is really a description of, let's say, artistic intuition, right? And how it works. It's always there somehow, but then it finds moments where it can sort of go to the foreground and grab those moments. So one observation I have about the film being shown to the activists and ending up in this activist circuit, I love it, because and it has to do with the second observation I have as well. When you mentioned, I'm not sure if I'm a filmmaker, I'm a documentary maker, an artist, or whatever. I have, after 71 years, I've come to the conclusions that labels are just fences we build around ourselves and we keep out all the things that are outside of those fences, they are not helpful. In fact, I feel the opposite is true. When we label ourselves as something, we start to live up to that as well. And all of that is really excluding the rest of the world. So the fact that your video went to the activists and is being shown in all sorts of activist contexts, and the fact that you are sort of taking distance from if you are a filmmaker or a documentary maker, it all fits together. And it has to do with, let's say, the flow of life in a way. You know, the work brings you to certain situations, and you act in those situations. I feel it's not necessary to give a name to it. I think it's very important to just follow that stream that comes out of what you've made. So I'm very happy about that. And I know, again, I would say don't worry about labels. But you're a very good artist.
But as you probably noticed that sometimes I could be very judgmental. I love labeling stuff because way of labeling is like how I understand, the word. That's why I'm doing it. So I think this goes same to me. Like I want to label myself. Like, where does it belong? So that's like a little personality that I have that I cannot resist.
I feel, if I may say so, after having talked with you several times, yes, you like to have this in order to also rebel against it at the same time, right? No more metaphors, directly to documentary. And so there's this energy, as it were, of exploring, but also rebelling against fences as well. Fences that you put up yourself, too. But now we're getting into psychotherapy, and that's a whole different session.
There's the last question. We have 2 more questions. But we'll do a very quick one because we only have time for 10 minutes. Because everyone wants to.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Christian. Yeah, so thank you so much for bringing your work to Malaysia. So it's a great privilege to see it. I was reading about your exhibition in Taiwan. I think it's a clean room, reeling room. And there's a difference between industrial revolution and what's happening now. And I think there's a lot of parallels between Malaysia and South Korea because we have a legacy of a semiconductor industry where workers were exploited during the Mahathir era dictatorship. And there's also the leukemia situation in Bukit Merah that happened decades ago, where people were poisoned because of the rare earth minerals mining, extraction and all that. So, so my question is, when you're talking about so South Korea being a very turbo capitalist society, there's a growing gap between society, right, rich and poor. I think it's sort of depicted in like Parasite, the film, where the director looks at society's growing gap. And he actually portrays it in an image of a house with double stories where the upper class live and the lower class in the basements. So we're creating a society where there's an underclass, and you see that in how people are exploited. And like I work in a corporate office where there are toilet cleaners who make your toilets very clean, but they're using all these hazardous chemicals with no protection, right? You mentioned that even if that's protective gear, it's to protect the product, not the worker. And in many situations, these workers do not even have that. So do you see yourself reflecting this class divide in your work? I mean, even though you're making a documentary, the parallels that you see in testimonies, do you see that something that influences your outcomes? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. I think what I found very interesting about what you said about providing the film to activists, etc., is like to spread out these works, because very often in art, these works are produced. They're like reflective about things that are happening in society or anti-capitalist, but they're only shown in these institutions. So my question is: do you aim for your work to kind of change something, or do you aim for this to go further outside of gallery walls and museums? And yeah, is that act of giving it to activists one part of that? Are there other ways you're thinking of spreading it more, or do you engage in activism yourself in some way? Yeah.
Okay, so I think the question is whether it reflects the class division in your, and then whether you can unite the worker of the world together. I think it's sort of answer that. But you want to answer that, or we can take the last question so that you can wrap up the whole session. Olaf, quick comment or question?
Combination.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep it short. I completely agree with what Han was saying. Like machines can be labeled actually, but human power is that we are creative and we can handle many things beyond our label. I see in your work, it's a lot about the love and hate relationship towards technology, the good and the bad side. Like for example, the fire that used to warm our house can also burn our house at the same time. So it's this double-edged sword. This sword seems to be approaching very rapidly in the current time we live in. Exponential growth of technology. We are now on the eve of huge transformation of economy and of society, where this worker that you focus on might not even need to work anymore. I'm referring to the machine taking over our job, like the marginal cost of labor, the marginal cost of intelligence will go to zero. I see factories where there's not even a worker in there anymore, like the BYD factories in China or the Tesla factories. It's dark spaces without humans. And then there is AI, and then from my point of view, the AI is a call for us to finally be human, not faster, not more efficient, not polished like some algorithms. The machine is much better at that. But us humans, more wilder, softer, messier, curious, imperfect. So I guess my question is, how do you view the worker, the human in this new world? Is it a utopia or is it a dystopia?
Yeah, I think I can mix, all of the things. Yeah, because I think the main, also one of the reasons why I look closely at the technologies is it is so intertwined with the social dynamics and politics and economics that you cannot really define it as it is. And often advanced technology is seen as very slight dystopian world, and also the AI, as you mentioned, there is no human inside the factory. And then the thing is that there is like different realities to it. People who, if there's a clean room creating semiconductor without any workers, who are actually creating these machines that creates these semiconductor machines, there is actually a bare minimum work that has to be done by the humans. So for me, what is important is that not to see like AI or the emerging technology as like this new scary things that comes out. And this is, I think, more of what the media wants to kind of portray the technology. And also the problems that happens in the technological industry is not just about the classes, I think, because for me, it's important to look at what is this alternative and what is this mixture idea that we have towards the technology. Like love and hate, even the workers inside, even the victimized worker use the cell phone, even the victimized workers have the iPhone. It's not like we are not going to, it's not like we are able to separate what is like bad and good anymore. Like, we are consumer and we are also the victim, we are the predator at the same time. So I'm not really trying to make it into like thin, like this is that, but it's so mixture. And this is what I'm trying to do is like, let's see a various side of technology more than what is being shown like in the media or as what is given to us to see. So this is like kind of the start of my creation, but then I don't really try to be functional as an activist because I have no rights to be called myself an activist, and I don't think the words can really change stuff. But then, and I think it's very dangerous to think about that you could actually change something so that you do something. I think that is like very dangerous purpose of doing something. It's like what you can at least do is like what you do for yourself. like I do for myself. Like I just do this because sometimes I feel angry by myself or by the society, but then I'm not really starting to make something that, okay, I'm going to change this policy. I think this has to do with other people's job, you know, like STS academics, maybe they have to change this regulation towards this new upcoming technology, not by me. But then what I can do is actually making people have similar empathy, different understanding when they look at the work. I think, and a lot of people already know somehow there is a bad side of technology. We all know it. I don't think I'm like teaching something new, but then it's kind of like reminding, like slightly sometimes. Today you will feel like, oh, I heard about it. I heard about people being sick in a clean room, but then now I get to see it. I feel like I have to do something, or I don't know. So, but this is just like what I could say after I made this work and then being heard by someone giving me a feedback about it. But then when I start to do it, I never think about I want to participate to change something because, yeah.
Great. I think Jill's right on time because the ultimatum I was given is 4:30. So, right. So remember, this is art, not propaganda. That's why it doesn't aim to change stuff, but make us see things differently. Thank you very much. Thank you for
so much.
Eunhee.
Thank you so much.
Right. Enjoy the show.
On behalf of ILHAM, I would like to thank Eunhee and Saubin very much for the interesting talk. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be screening the film Colorless, Odorless in this space in about 10 minutes. So if anybody would like to join the screening, please stay on. Thank you.